Hadn't thought about this, but this is technically true. So, in the video in which I stated that Zeus could be Luffy's Nimbus, a commenter by the name of The Will of Dreams on YouTube commented that he could theoretically do the same to the ocean when in Gear 5th. This is technically true, as the water of the ocean does not affect Dofru powers. We see this in Arlong Park, and we also see that Oven can actually conduct his heat through the waters of the ocean. So, Gear 5th, by that logic, seeing as how he could turn lightning into rubber, he should be able to turn the water around him into rubber, which is kind of spooky because he technically could drown a fellow Dofru user by doing what he did to Kaido back in Wano. Wild, give me your thoughts. So, you know the Kid Pirates, right? They are styled after a metal band like Kiss or Metallica. I think Heat of the Kid Pirates, the zombie who could breathe fire, we don't know why he can breathe fire, but he can. I think that's a reference to the pyrotechnic effects that you see at these shows, at these concerts. So that's the sort of play on him as a character. He is the pyrotechnics guy in this band known as the Kid Pirates. What's also very interesting that seeing as how Kid is an engineer, and a lot of guys, by a lot of guys I mean Killer, kind of have sort of like this engineer blacksmith thing going on where they have like this cool weaponry. He could be the heat used to forge said weapons. But yeah, he's a jobber. He gives Shanks the poneglyph rubbings. Whatever. Give me your thoughts. Don't know how direct of a parallel this is, but please follow me. So, there are 5 jailer beasts. All are awakened Zoans. They're controlled by a woman who has a very revealing outfit on with a headdress and just hides her eyes. We've never seen Sadi-chan's eyes. Then there are 5 elders who too all presumably are awakened Zoans, at least if the art is to be believed and is consistent. They are controlled by a figure wearing a headdress who is basically almost all obscured, all covered up, except for their eyes. So what does that mean? Is Nerona Imu a woman? Because I don't believe the anime. We'll have to wait and see, but this is very interesting. Give me your thoughts. You know what I find so funny? Even though Shiryu literally is an invisible man, Teach will entrust Devon and Van Augur with a stealth mission because he knows even though Shiryu has a power that literally makes him invisible and perhaps could make him undetectable to observation hockey, you know why he doesn't send him out for espionage missions? It's because much like Zoro, Shiryu is stupid. Stupid in that, like Zoro and his directionlessness, Shiryu can't help but to cut people. In fact, we see this when Moria invades the pirate island. Shiryu takes that opportunity to just slash up Moria. He loves it. He can't get enough of slashing. He's actually a psychopath. He's mentally handicapped by his bloodlust. I find that hilarious. Give me your thoughts. I don't know what this means, but it's starting to freak me out. So you know Koala of the Revolutionary Army and Minnow Koala of the Jailer Beast, right? Both of these characters obviously are named Koala, with Minnow Koala being a Koala Zoan Fruit user. Okay, both Koala and Minnow Koala are the same color because Minnow Koala's fur is ochre, Koala's hair is ochre, and Minnow Koala is wearing a kilt with a sun on it. Koala has the mark of the sun on her back. Not only that, Minnow Koala fights with brass knuckles. Koala has gloves and she uses fishbear karate. So both of them use their hands to fight. They don't use weaponry. So that's all very interesting, and I don't know where that is going, but give me your thoughts. I recently made a video stating every character I think that fits inside the special Paramecia class. Katakuri, the poster boy of this class, is often mistaken to have a body made out of mochi. This is not the case. He is generating an armor of mochi that looks like his body, and he's moving his body around within that armor. It also acts as a storage space for his spear. Speaking of his spear, you know how I know his body isn't Mochi all the time? Because he stabs himself with his spear and draws blood, which shows you that he is a flesh and blood man. His powers are not automatic, akin to like Buggy, Kuma, Alvida, or Very Good. He has to activate his ability. He has to activate that Mochi armor. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and watch that video. It's a good one. A while ago, I stated that the reason why objects can eat Zoan fruits is because when an object eats a Zoan fruit, that object becomes a living creature, which means it's up for the cycle of death and rebirth that all other Devil Fruit users are exposed to, which allows the fruit to go back into circulation. The reason why a Paramecia and Logia will never be fed to an object because they do not contain the essence of life. They are mostly conceptual. So, with that being said, we've actually seen what happens when an object comes in contact with a Paramecia fruit. Caulifla, in eating her fruit for the first time, eats it with a fork and knife. Kaku does not. He simply peels the banana. So, if Paramecia and Logia fruits could be fed to objects by like rubbing them up against each other, which I assume that's how Zoan feeding goes, then the fork and knife would have got the bubble powers and not her. So that's very interesting that we have in lore context, but give me your thoughts. Thanks to all the cartoon shenanigans done by Gear 5th, I noticed something I didn't notice before about Carrot. The reason why in the narrative Carrot wears gloves or gauntlets is because she has no skill at swordsmanship like the rest of the mink, right? However, the meta reason why she wears gloves is because she's an anthropomorphic rabbit. Anthropomorphic rabbits in cartoons wear gloves like Bugs Bunny or Lola Bunny. And this applies to anthropomorphic animals in general, though, like Mickey Mouse, Goofy, etc., etc. But give me your thoughts. I just noticed that, and that's a very genius incorporation and more fuel to the fire for that whole brush fruit theory. But yeah, give me your thoughts. You know another reason why I know Nami is going to get Prometheus as a tool? Because, okay, the Straw Hat Pirates are led by Monkey D. Luffy, who is the sun deity, who is the captain of a ship called the Thousand Sunny, helmed by a guy who was the former captain of the Sun Pirates, who bears a sun tattoo or a sun mark on his chest. I don't know. That's a lot of sun iconography. If you ask me, it would only make sense for them to now have a living sun in their ranks. I mean, that would be very on brand to just have a sun at the ready who can maybe be used as a fuel source, similar to how Egghead Island works on firepower. But hey, give me your thoughts. So do you remember that official piece of artwork that came out a while ago of Nami using 3-sword style? That's possible now thanks to Gear 5th, because what Gear 5th could potentially do with the abilities that it has, which are Toon Force, is that like in some cartoons, Luffy could just pop open Zoro's head like a hatch, dig inside of his brain, and make a copy of or simply pull out 3-sword style, then pop Nami's head open like a hatch, smack 3-sword style inside of there, and then she can use 3-sword style. What'll also be funny is that in doing that as a trade-off, he takes good direction out of Nami's head and puts it in Zoro's head for a time being. So now you have a Zoro who has good directions and who can tell the weather, and a Nami who gets lost but knows 3-sword style. I thought that'd be very funny and very good. But give me your thoughts. Okay, so who is this? I know, obviously, this is a biscuit soldier made by a cracker, but who did he model this after? Because it has to be somebody. He didn't just come up with this off the fly. And for it to look so much unlike himself, it's super weird. Because I just did a video about a bunch of Paramecias who may be special Paramecias, and it's weird that out of all the constructs people make, he is the only one who makes something totally different from himself. So was this his dad? Did his dad look like the Biscuit Soldiers? Because I'm wondering, what's the story here? Because you look at like Doflamingo or Katakuri, their armors or constructs look like them. Crackers does not. Give me your thoughts. Ayo, the Jolly Roger for the Cross Guild just got revealed, bruh. Man, this is tough, bruh. Oh, this is the toughest looking Jolly Roger I've ever seen, because you got Buggy's face, you got the wings and swords of Baroque Works, and then you have Mihawk's sword in the background. I think this is the first time, like, period, Mihawk has ever had any kind of Jolly Roger. I don't recall that he ever had anything associated with himself, because of course he's never had a pirate crew. Bruh, this is tough. Oh, baby. This is hot. I love it. I love it. Cross Guild slowly but surely becoming my favorite faction in the series other than the Straw Hats themselves. Man. Woo! Give me your thoughts.
So this has always been a thing. I think it was actually talked about in an SBS, but thanks to the One Piece Vivicard Visual Dictionary, we actually have the confirmed bounty of Q. Q's bounty is 72 million. So far, he still is the reigning champ for having the highest bounty of the original Blackbeard pirates. Because, for example, Burgess has the bounty of only 20 million, thanks to the same visual dictionary. Lafitte is 42,200,000. And of course, Blackbeard, also known as Marshall D. Teach, had a bounty of 0. Not nothing, but 0. Super interesting. Give me your thoughts. I've always had this thought, or at least I had it for quite a while, with the giants within the giant squadron of the Marines, right? If they are constantly on Marineford, like if that's their base of operations, is there a quarters for them to sleep? Also in that quarters, do they have giant toilets? Because it's just an interesting thought that you have these giant people, but there's no accommodations for them, because you would have to have a giant mess hall. You have to have a giant chef who cooks giant meals for the giant Marines in this Marine base, whether it's Marineford or they have another Marine base somewhere else. I really hope we get into that when we get to Elbaf. I hope it's a whole giant extravaganza, but give me your thoughts. This would be kind of funny, but it does depend on whether Bonnie joins the Straw Hat crew or not. What if Bonnie encounters Big Mom, right? And then she uses her age powers on Big Mom. Big Mom doesn't defend herself with hockey in time. Let's just say that. And we get hot 20-year-old Big Mom. I want that so badly. I want to see Big Mom young, active in the current story. I do. I will not hide my intentions. I want to see that. I think it would be kind of neat, simply because we have not seen that in the current day, and I want to see how other characters react to this happening. It probably wouldn't last because Bonnie's powers seem very impermanent, but it would be a cool thing to see. I don't know. Give me your thoughts. So, what happens if a being eats the pawpaw fruit when they don't have any extremities? No hands, no feet, or anything like that. So, for example, what if a snake ate the pawpaw fruit? Where would the paw pads go? Would they spawn on the snake's belly? Then the snake is in a perpetual state of agony because they keep bouncing off the ground because the paw pads are pressing against the ground as they move. Or what if a Den Den Mushi ate the pawpaw fruit? Would the paws grow on the Den Den Mushi's eyes? And therefore it is now blinded now by its own ability? Or what if it's, say, like something like Prometheus or Zeus? They don't have any extremities at all, so where would the paw pads grow? That's a good question, though. Give me your thoughts.
You know what's crazy, and I didn't consider this, right? There are submarines in One Piece. We know this, right? However, there were subs before the technological ceiling of One Piece was increased. What I mean by that is before Frankie was introduced, because Frankie alone does increase the technological ceiling of One Piece as a whole, because after him, we've got subs like Laws and the shark sub that the Straw Hats have, but there was a submarine before any of that even occurred. Wapple's ship, Blinking, or the Tin Tyrant, is a submarine, and I find that really interesting that he has something so technologically advanced, because then later on in the story, he is very influential to other technological advances happening due to the invention of Wapple metal. So that's fascinating. But give me your thoughts. So there's an interesting thread connecting Q, Brook, and Nosjuro all together. So in chapter 1110, we find out that Nosjuro can turn to Bakutsu, which is a giant skeletal horse with ice powers. Brook is a giant skeleton, or he's been called a giant skeleton with ice powers. Then Q is a horseman, meaning he rides on a horse that is pale, which is emblematic of death, referring to the four horsemen of the apocalypse. On top of that, he has the power of the Sick fruit. We know that illnesses have caused ice effects to happen, looking at Queen with his plague bullets, turning various people into ice onis. But we also know that when someone is sick, it can be called a cold. So that's very interesting. But give me your thoughts. Okay, this is super simple, and I've heard no one say this, even after all the videos I watched about Saturn and his weird portal creation. You know why he can create magic circles and why he has this power specifically? It could be a devil fruit power, don't care about the origin, but his name is Saturn. The planet Saturn is known for its rings. So this whole bit is a gag. It makes perfect sense that he's the only one with this magic circle warping ability because he's Saturn. Of course he can create rings. That's the whole joke. So we have to see now if the other elders have sort of gags or jokes related to their planets and their power schemes. But we'll wait and see. Give me your thoughts. The Age fruit can allow Bonnie to achieve different possibilities in her future based on what a human can feasibly do in the world of One Piece. In so many words, that is what Saturn says very recently. Now, what if the awakening could bring forth the impossible and make it possible, but not so much for Bonnie herself or other living beings, but for objects? For example, what if, when attacking with a lead pipe, she could awaken her ability and say, give me a future in which this pipe was made of diamond? This kinda is what happens in the manga and anime series called Fullmetal Alchemist, but they usually use what exists inside the material that they're transmuting to turn into something else. But what if Bonnie didn't need to do that? She could just make up something on the spot. Give me your thoughts. Here's a funny thing I noticed. Both Kuma and Franky have had self-destruct features that just turned out to be duds or bluffs. So in chapter 389, Franky bluffed that he was about to self-destruct. However, he was just using Coup de Boo in order to free Robin from her bondage so that she could see Luffy. Then in chapter 1104, we get context of what actually was implanted in Kuma. Saturn thought he had a self-destruct feature, as Saturn told Vegapunk to put that in Kuma. However, this turned out to be a bluff, a dud, because when he activated the self-destruct feature, nothing happened. Give me your thoughts. So, San Juan Wolf of the Blackbeard Pirates has eaten the huge fruit, otherwise known as the Deca no Mi. And being a giant who is already quite big, he can reach a maximum size of 180 meters or 590 feet and 6 inches. With that being said, how big do you think a Tontada would get if they were to eat the huge fruit? That's something to think about, because does the huge fruit have a size cap, or are there other abilities? Who's to say? We'll find out in the future, but give me your thoughts. Big spoilers for the Egghead Island arc ahead. So I think over the 2-year time skip, a character that got a significant amount of training along with the Straw Hats was Vivi. Vivi most likely had to step up in being the political and diplomatic face of Alabasta because her father began to age during that time. So she now has experience in running a nation. She has always had experience in being diplomatic, as we see in her small flashback with Wapol back in the day. But I think now, if she does rejoin the Straw Hats as Nefertari D. Vivi, this is going to be more important. I think she would probably have the role of vice captain, and as a Yonko crew who probably is going to start amassing territories very soon, it's going to be very important to have somebody who
has that diplomatic position who can organize those people. But give me your thoughts. You know what I find fascinating about the three original admirals in the story? Aokiji, Aki Inu, and Kizaru. They have devastating abilities, right? Because they're all Lokias. However, the amount of precision they have with their abilities is kind of unseen in the narrative. I think the only other character that has the amount of precision they have is NL, because NL can pinpoint where he wanted lightning strikes to go when he was like several kilometers away. But these three are very precise in their attacks, which is very funny when you compare them to the newest admirals, Green Bull and Fujitora, because they cannot even work in close quarters and they end up terraforming the environment whenever they get into a fight, which I find very funny. But give me your thoughts. Okay, so I've heard over the years many a time that when Frankie's design changes from the pre-time skip into the post-time skip, not a lot of people like it. However, after the years have flown by, I have become the exact opposite. I love the post-time skip version a lot better than the pre-time skip version, because the pre-time skip version does something very disgusting and unsettling that nobody talks about. Frankie degloves his own hand in the pre-time skip to do attacks. Like, I believe it's strong right and then strong hammer. He takes the hand skin with the nails attached off of his hand to reveal his big metal fist, and then he clobbers somebody with it. So he degloves his hand for good punching. That's disgusting. And then he puts in his Speedo. He puts the glove of his skin in his Speedo. Oh, give me your thoughts. This is dumb, but don't get mad. Who in the world had strong enough arm in hockey to imbue their tattoo needle to both give Kaido and Big Mom their respective tattoos? Either way, Kaido has to have a weaker body than Big Mom, because Kaido has a full arm sleeve for a tattoo, whereas Big Mom just has one little heart on one of her arms. So who had a strong enough armament coated tattooing needle to pierce the skin of Kaido and Big Mom to give them their respective tattoos? Who was it? Show yourself. Show yourself now. Give me your thoughts. So, as you may or may not know, Django got his hypnotic abilities from eating a mushroom that started to grow on his chin. So, here's what I ask you. Do you think that type of mushroom and the mushroom that Luffy ate that caused mushrooms to grow all over his body during Amazon Lily are related somehow? Are they the same type of mushroom? Because they both grow out of people's bodies, or at least have the ability to grow out of people's bodies. I don't know if said mushroom can give you hypnotism, but it's an interesting thought. Because so far as I know, these have been the only two fungi that are able to grow out of people's bodies. But give me your thoughts. You know what I find so funny about the Oro Jackson? It is the only ship in One Piece where it has two mermaids as figureheads. Now, mind you, mermaids are a real thing in One Piece, right? And considering who made it, who is Tom, it's a very interesting thought, because Tom had something else on his mind as he was constructing the Oro Jackson, especially when he had someone like young Kokoro working for him. I don't know, dog. I just find it very funny. Out of all the ships in One Piece, the one ship that Tom the Fishman built has two mermaid figureheads. I don't know. I just find that funny. Give me your thoughts. Back when I started the channel, I made a short about how it was interesting that Mont Blanc Nolan's pants were striped with blue and white, similar to Usopp's armband that he has always had. What is also interesting is that Mont Blanc in French just translates to White Mountain. Now, the types of lies that Usopp tells can be seen as white lies because they're ultimately harmless. Nolan, as you may know, is famous for being a liar because of the whole City of Gold story. So I wonder, based on the comparison between Usopp and Nolan during Dressrosa, is Usopp's last name Mont Blanc? Because he does build a mountain of white lies throughout the entirety of the story that, much like Nolan's lie, turn out being true. But give me your thoughts. Geen lore is incoming. We got some Geen lore this time, boys. Okay, I don't know if this is new or old information, but thanks to the One Piece Wikia, I have now seen that in the One Piece Vivicard Visual Dictionary, Geen of Don Krieg's crew has a bounty of 12 million. This is only 5 million shy from the captain, which of course is Don Krieg, sitting at 17 million. Crazy how low bounties were back in the East Blue, but it makes sense. So yeah, the divide between Geen and Krieg was not that wide. That is incredible. And I guess Geen is overall more impressive because Don Krieg seemed to be more about gadgets and traps as opposed to actual physical strength. Whereas Geen, if I remember correctly, kind of KO'd Don Krieg without effort after the fight was over. So yeah, give me your thoughts.
So this is funny, but so far we have 3 different ships modeled after the likeness of 3 different characters. So the first one we see is the Going Luffy Senpai, which is the ship that belongs to the Barto Club, done in the likeness of Luffy. Secondly, we have the Usoland, which is the ship of the Tontada Pirates, which is done in the likeness of Usopp when he defeated Sugar. And then lastly, we have the Big Top Blaster, which is the ship of the Cross Guild, done in Buggy's likeness by Buggy's Goons. Buggy stands alone in this because he is the only one who actually has a ship that looks like him, that is his main ship, and he is the captain of said ship. As an added bonus, Franky has only been recognized so far by things he has built. The only bounty poster that shows him as himself is his first bounty poster. Every bounty poster afterwards is of a thing that he's built. Give me your thoughts. Doc Q and Stronger could be a reference to all 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, not just one, because Doc Q is dressed in all black, looks like an Undertaker, and has a noose around his neck while carrying a scythe. Death, the horseman, is carrying a scythe. A noose represents death, and Famine is recognized by his black horse. Because Doc Q is the Sick fruit user, that is an allegory to pestilence. Because Doc Q is riding a white horse who is pale, that is a double feature, both being allegories to death and pestilence. Because he hands out red apples that are both used as weapons because they're bombs, and because you cannot eat them. These are references to famine because you can't eat them, and war because they are red and they're actually used as weapons. Because he is on a war horse, which is a Pegasus, that's also an allegory to war.
Thought of something
Give
funny.
me your thoughts.
If Caribou does join Blackbeard officially, Blackbeard would have his chopper, because Chopper is a deer. A caribou, which is what Caribou is named after, is also a deer creature. So you have one who actually has a deer, meaning Luffy with Chopper, and then you have the other, Blackbeard, who just has a man named after a type of deer. And then to add a bit of sugar to the pot, we also have Bonnie. Bonnie's animal resemblance is the deer. So it will also be funny if Bonnie and Caribou both end up being apprentices. That means Blackbeard and Luffy have apprentices
going
who
around that
identify
Silvers Rayleigh
with
has
the
a
deer.
child,
Give
and
me your
that child
thoughts.
is Dracula Mihawk. I don't think this is the case, because in chapter 1059 and in episode 1088, we see that after the attack on Amazon Lily, Boa Hancock is resting her head on Rayleigh's lap. She has not done this to another male in the entirety of the series, not even Luffy. So why does this make sense? It makes sense because that is her father. Also, we know that Conqueror's Haki is hereditary because Yamato and Ace have displayed Conqueror's Haki because of their respective fathers, most likely. And Boa Hancock, too, has Conqueror's Haki. She's the first person in the series to have all 3 types of Haki, in fact. So, who would she get that from? Her father, who is a legendary pirate, who is Silvers Rayleigh. Give me your thoughts.